Hi friends, Chandrasekhar here again. This time we shall be talking about the third Graha in order of weekdays, which is Mangal, Mars. In Sanskrit it is called Mangal. It is also called Vakra. It is called Ar. So he has different names in different contexts. And he is the king's general in the system of planetary cabinet. He is the commander of the army. He is the fighter, obviously. And he is Karaka for brothers. If you remember in the Bhava lectures, while talking about third Bhava, I said protection and strength being given by the third Bhava, and Vistarak being Mars, Mangal, and so he indicates strength. His arms, obviously, he rules over Kauta Yudha, which is different weapons of war, which has to be understood in broader meaning, that initially it was hand-to-hand combat, then the perhaps the staff, wooden staff developed, and later on to metal. He also rules metals, and anything to do with engineering, anything to do with technical subject is Mars's domain. Most of the techniques, most of the sciences are also used for war. Most of them also perhaps reach their peak while thinking of war. Even artists like Leonardo da Vinci designed weapons of war, the machines for war. So machines are ruled by Mars, and he is called Bhauma. Bhauma is son of Bhumi. Bhumi means the earth. And if those who are well versed with the Vedic sciences, and those of you who are attached to stotras and that is the prayers which praise the planets, is called stotra, stuti, and stotra. Stotra means praise, stuti means praise, and stotra means that which talks about praise of something. And we'll know the Navagraha stotra, in which he is referred to as, or he is called Dharani Garbha Sambhutam, one born out of earth, Vidyut Kanti, Samaprabha, who looks like a lightning. He is as beautiful or as bright as the lightning. Kumaram Hasti Shakti Hastamcha. He is Kumar. He is the Kumar is one of the names of Lord Kartikeya, who is also called Subramanyam, and he is the Senapati, the commander-in-chief of army of gods. So here is the Kumaram, Shakti Hastamcha, one who has the weapon called Shakti in his hands. Mangalam Pranamamyam. Such a Mars, I salute such a Mars, is what is said in the Navagraha Stotra. Now, how is this connected with mythology? I think I have said that many a times the Puranas are telling us about certain complex principles through stories. In Indian sciences, iconography is used liberally, and so there is a story of birth of Mangal, that is Mars. There is a temple of Mars called Mangalnath in Ujjain, which is exactly on the Tropic of Cancer, and that was the ancient place through which the zero longitude of Hindus progressed on to Kurukshetra, starting from Lanka. Not the Sri Lanka necessarily. Lanka was a city which was located at the intersection of zero longitude of Hindus and the equator. So the day was equal there. So it was exactly 2 hours. Every 2 hours a Rashi would change at that equator, and that is why while casting the chart we take into consideration the place of birth also, because as you grow up or down from the equator, the span of Rashi in hours gets reduced to some extent. So having understood this, the story is there was a demon, or actually Asura. Demon is just an English name that we use, but it is Asura, one who was not God. But they were disciples of Lord Shiva. Shiva represents to my mind knowledge, pure knowledge, and that is why he has no form, and he is represented by a column, and so this Andhakasur prayed to him like anything, and then Lord was happy with him, asked him for a boon, and Andhakasur said, wherever my blood falls, another hundreds of Andhakasur should be born from my drop of blood. And then he, as usual, is the story in all the Puranas, anybody getting absolute authority and strength generally uses it indiscriminately. So he started attacking all the gods, the rishis, the munis, and everybody, and he grew so arrogant that he started fighting with all the gods, whom he obviously deputed, because every time something hits him, a drop of blood would fall, from which hundreds more would be produced, and it was difficult, almost impossible to defeat him. So everybody went to Lord Shiva. Any time, whenever you can't face anything, any big problem is there, you have to go to the intellect to understand what is to be done, how this is to be dealt with. And Lord Shiva is said to have come himself to fight Andhakasura, and there was huge fight going on, because every time he would attack him, the Andhakasura, with the trident, blood would fall on earth, and naturally thousands of more asuras would come out of it. And so this went on for a long time. That is how the story goes. And because even intellect has to have patience to overcome the negatives of the opponent. And so Lord Shiva started sweating. His sweat fell on earth, and earth developed a crack, out of which Mars was born. Now, this is the story. And Mars, then, once Mars was born, Lord Shiva threw the trident in a way that the blood stream from Andhaka fell on Mars himself, who drank all that blood, and finally Andhakasur was destroyed. Now here many things are being told, and one of which is, he was born in the battleground, so he is the ultimate fighter, the commander-in-chief. He has strength to fight. He also represents blood, because he drank the blood. That is the story. And at Mangalnath temple, there is Mangal in form of, we call it linga, mark of Shiva, in the form of a stone, which is porous, by the way. So you have to understand, unless something is porous, everything would not be absorbed, otherwise it will come out. So besides this story, this indicates that born in battlefield, ability to drink blood, so he rules over blood, in explaining how the periods or menses of women take place. There is a shloka which says that when moon and Mars, when moon is Anupachaya Sthana and Mars starts, moon goes to Anupachaya, starts aspecting Mars in the natal chart, or vice versa, that is when there is a release of the first menses, because Mars indicates the great energy, whereas moon indicates primarily blood. Also Mars represents blood, and that is how the menses start for a lady. This also tells us that Mars also rules over ova, because menses are connected with ovulation. So whenever Mars is weak in a planet, in a chart, and connected with 6 or 8, and if there is problem of progeny, see whether the menses cycle is regular. If it is not, then suggest proper remedies for it. And by remedies, I would more go with the balancing of the mind and the 5th and the 9th house properly, so that the mind is fine, and then the hormones start flowing properly, the balance happens. And also take the medicine from doctor, because moon anyway is connected with vanaspati, the medicines. And as you can understand, Mars and moon together also represents chemicals, the pharmaceuticals. So you can understand that what they are talking about Mars getting disturbed and so the menses starting. They are talking about the hormonal activity which starts in the body of the lady, the woman. And Mars, as I said, he is also said to be Krura Druk, they call it. That is, he has a cruel sight, which means his aspect would perhaps harm. That is what they are telling, because we call aspect as to look at something. We say there is an aspect of a planet. In colloquial language, we say this planet looks at XYZ Bhava. He is Tarunamurti. He is young, and you will find generally when Mars influence is there on the Lagna, the ascendant, the person appears to be much younger than what is his physical age. He is Udar, he likes to give things to others, because naturally being a commander-in-chief, he loots many things and then he distributes it amongst his own, army or people who follow him. And he is swift, chapal. He is also Krushamadhya, which means his vest is a bit small vested. He has that typical, form, rather ideal form, which should be of a person with a small vest and a large chest, and that is what is Mars. In bones, he is the marrow. He is the bone marrow. Bone is represented by Sun, but marrow is ruled by Mars. So any problem with Mars, and then you can even, once you go into the medical part of astrology, bone marrow problems can also be understood if Mars, Saturn and Moon are combining somewhere, and especially in the region of 8th house or the 6th house. Perhaps it could also relate to the bone marrow problem, maybe in the spine, and so on and so forth. That is a matter of interpretation. Many a times, especially in the North India, people tend to connect Mars with celibacy. The reason is, in the North India it is assumed or it is said that Mars is a bachelor. But in south part of India and even in Puranas, he is said to have two wives, Valli and Devasena. Now Devasena means army of gods. So you can understand the connection between what they are saying. He rides a beautiful peacock, and peacock does procreate. You know what the army does. I mean, no disrespect to army, but even in ancient time or modern times, loot and rapine used to be one of the part of army. So, and army men are not celibates. So let us understand it. Understand, when he is called Senapati, he has something. Okay. Then you remember, he rules over Aries. Even in Mangal temple, his vehicle is shown as a brass ram. So what is the tendency of ram? To jump from one place to other, meet with many females, and then also take on anybody. A ram will go and hit his head against even a locomotive, not bothering whether he dies. He would go on doing it. I think there was a video going on of a ram going and fighting with a bull. I mean, no sane person would do it, but he did it and made the bull run away. So this is the basic, the fighter. That is his Rashi of, it is Mul Trikon Rashi of Mars. It is the first Rashi in the zodiac. So you are born in that Rashi. If you consider the natural zodiac, Lagna will be represented always by Mars. That is what gives you the energy, the ability to act. And then the next Rashi of Mars, which is owned by Mars, is Vrishchika, the Scorpio. Scorpio is in the 8th bhava of the natural zodiac. It is referred to as the Randrasana, something where there is a crack in the ground. I think I had talked about that while talking about the 8th bhava. And if you remember, he was born when the sweat of Lord Shiva fell on the earth, and there developed a crack out of which the Mars was. So that iconography and his tendency, the 8th house being secretive, because Andakasur did not know something is going to come out of it. So these iconography and astrology, all of them converge. Mars has energy. We call about Kuja dosha, the affliction of Mars. So Mars in 12th Lagna, according to South Indians, second bhava also, I have seen that more effective than the 8th bhava, then the 4th, 7th and 8th. When Mars occupies this, we say there is a Kuja dosha. People are scared of Kuja dosha, affliction caused by Mars, and many think that because of that marriages don't take place or don't last, but that is a fallacy. If you can understand, out of the 12 bhavas, 6 when occupied by Mars is Mars affliction. And do you think that 50% of the people of this world do not get married early? No, obviously no. So even this has to be understood properly. That person has energy. Now that energy, if not properly channelized, could and might be would harm the marital bond, because from the 12th house he aspects this 7th house, as you can understand. From Lagna he will aspect the 7th house. From 4th house also he aspects the 7th house. 8th house is anyway connected with the sexual organs. And what about the 2nd house? Is a question which might arise. See, 2nd house also aspects the 5th house. So sometimes there could be abortions, and not having progeny is sometimes a reason for not the marriage not sustaining. And he also looks on the 8th house, the house of sexual organs. Now you understand, this is a big energy. It has to be dissipated somewhere. Never be scared of a Mars dosha. If that person takes up to sports or doing something which needs a lot of activity, most of the part of that dosha goes off, because the energy is already expended. And why in the 2nd house? 2nd house happens to be 8th from the 7th house. So this bond of marriage, its ayusha, its life is the 2nd house. And Mars there would cause more harm than Mars in 8th house, because naturally in the 8th house every planet loses its strength. Then Mars owns that house in natural zodiac. So what happens is Papopi Swagrahagata Shubhakara is the saying. So even a malefic in own house doesn't give bad results. They say it gives good results, but it means it would not give as bad results as is assumed. Mars loses much of his energy, and you will find Mars in the 8th, the marriages will last. There would be some tiffs, because that person would be given to speaking in a bit harsh manner. Mars ultimately aspects the 2nd, that is house of family. There would be some problems, but it would not break the bond. Whereas Mars in 2nd, if with strength, where he doesn't lose strength there, can cause some stress in the marital relations, which could be overcome by frequent travels, that person taking up some exercise or some sports and so on and so forth. So my friends, I think I have been able to explain Mars fairly well. As we have seen, his Karaka for 3rd house, the house of brothers. So any weakness of Mars or any affliction to the Mars can also sometimes indicate problems with the siblings. When I mean brother, that also includes sisters. That has to be understood. Mars, I have observed, generally in the 5th house, Mars or Sun doesn't necessarily indicate harm to the progeny or no progeny or death of progeny. It could also indicate birth of females. Now my logic is, because they are king and the army commander respectively, they don't want anybody, any competition for themselves. And many a times the army commander also come to that position after defeating some competitor, and so they don't allow the male progeny to come through, but allow the females to come through. So Mars, many a times they are strong, can give only daughters. This is assuming there is no other planet aspecting it. And Mars in the 8th or Mars in the 5th aspecting the 8th house, even 2nd, can sometimes indicate accidents happening without any contributory negligence from the side of the Jataka. So as we say, that is part of it. His aspect of 8th also can indicate bleeding piles, anything to do with blood. If she is a lady or even for a male, it can also indicate anemia, especially if moon is also connected to this Mars, because moon also rules over blood. Moon also is connected to the white color, the white cells, so the white cells increase and the red cells decrease. I hope I have been able to impart something valuable and something which is not generally looked at or understood while looking at Mars, and that is basically the idea behind these lectures. We look at a different perspective of looking at planets. We look at different perspective when looking at bhavas. We also look at remedies in a different manner. Remedies through action is what I love. They are easy, and ultimately anyway you have to do things to improve your life. So my friends, I take your leave. As usual, do go on giving comments. Let me know where I failed or to convey something, or if my speech is fast, because I am used to speaking a bit fast. See, Mars aspects my second house. Mars has energy, as I said, and so my energy will go in speaking. Sometimes I do speak harsh, mostly not, because in my chart, of course, Jupiter aspects the Mars in the 7th house, and so let me know your views, your comments encourage me, even the negative ones encourage me to think about how to present a subject, and so I take your leave until the next lecture, which will be naturally after Mars come the great Buddha, and I'll mix their nature with sometimes their pitta, like their humor, like Mars and Sun are rulers of pitta, the acidity. Mars also is connected with tikta, hot taste, and Sun of course with the bitter. And Mars generally is not very tall, especially Aries Lagna is not generally very tall, so that has to be understood. And he is generally, he has, if Mars influence is there, the person's body is generally proportionate, more looking like a army man's body, not by height. It would depend on the genetics. In his family, he would appear to be a bit shorter, not greatly shorter, and well proportioned. And so, till the next lecture, I take your leave. Thank you very much for giving me a very patient hearing.